Vernomatic Productions.
Are you ready?
Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are gold.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC.
It's getting nice and heavy.
And now, welcome tonight's host, John the Vernomatic Verno.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well, staying safe, and especially staying healthy. Well, tonight, Metal Walt brings us a pair of conversations from two very different worlds, but both built around creativity, performance, and finding an audience. First up, Skid Row bassist Rachel Bolan joins the show to discuss Gargoyle of the Garden State, his long-awaited first solo album. Rachel talks about stepping outside the Skid Row framework, collaborating with some friends like Corey Taylor, Nuno Bettencourt, as well as his bandmates Sabo and Scott Hill, and the journey that finally led him to release a record under his own name. Then we switch gears and welcome comedian Marcus Monroe onto the show. Marcus, whose viral New York City subway videos have turned everyday train rides into comedy stages and helped launch a national touring career for Marcus. Marcus shares stories from the subway, the creative process behind the characters, and why the road for a working comedian isn't all that different from life of a touring rock band. These are two great guests, two very different paths, but one common thread: building a career by connecting with an audience. I connected with both of these, and I'm sure you'll dig it. So let's get into this. Metal Walt, Rachel Bolan, Marcus Monroe. I'm the Vernomatic, and we are Metal Mayhem ROC.
So, Rachel, welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, man. How you doing?
Listen, I'm a fellow New Jersey resident. And the title of the new album caught me by surprise. So what does it mean? Gargoyle of the Garden State?
I just recently moved back to New Jersey after being gone for, 25 years.
All right.
And when the whole idea for a solo record came up, I was just going to call it Gargoyle. Because gargoyles are kind of those things that people misunderstand. And I was like, yeah, I could relate. Yeah. I've worn those wings. So I moved back to New Jersey and I'm like, I'm going to call it Gargoyle of the Garden State because I'm back. This is my home. And it took me a while to get back, but I'm finally here.
All right. Well, I will say, looking at your shirt, great shirt, by the way, but there are no Waffle Houses in New Jersey. I think you were from down south in Atlanta, so that's probably where it is, right?
Yeah, Atlanta and Nashville. I lived in both those cities, and there's a Waffle House on every single corner.
Well, welcome back to the Garden State, as the Overkill song says. And,
Yes.
You could hit the diner and get a real waffle, go forward. So,
There you go.
hey, Rachel, you and I are probably around the same age. I've seen Skid Row many times through the years. But one thing I always remember in some of these shows is you were never afraid to get front and center. And I know you always had this love for punk, and you jump in and do like the Ramones song Psychotherapy. So I think, knowing that this is your first real solo album, this is kind of miles away versus what maybe fans would expect comparison to Skid Row. So how did this whole project get, let's say, off the ground?
Well, I had a bunch of songs written from years ago, and I was sitting with Nick Raskulinecz, who produced the record, and we're good friends. So we were just sitting there. I go, man, let me play you some of this stuff that I've written over the years. And I played it for him. He's like, just do a solo record. Let's do it right here in my studio. I was like, okay, let's see if your music is into the idea. And they were, thankfully. And that kind of started the ball rolling. And I had a bunch of songs that I sent to him. And he's like, some are good, some are okay. And he goes, you need to keep writing though, write stuff we'll start replacing things. So that's what we did. And I trust Nick's opinion so much. And so then the last two songs were written within 2 weeks of starting the record. And we plucked 2 other songs out of what was there. And this is the result. This is the end result.
Cool. I would say I've had the Advance for a while now, and it's a really good record. But what struck me wasn't just the energy, it's how many different flavors are happening through the album. So, I feel like you hit a bunch of different swim lanes with some of these songs, like a song like Big Stick. It's kind of has this loud, chaotic punk attitude with it. And then Pretty Hell is sort of like a vintage garage rock song. And then something like At War With Myself, it's almost like this power punk stomp to it. And then Memory feels incredibly melodic and almost like a radio hit. So, say, when you're writing these songs, were you looking for these different angles, these different shades, or they sort of just come out naturally?
This is, all these songs are completely organic. I don't write with types in mind. I tried that down in Nashville, and I didn't like it. So, but yeah, these songs, and by the way, let's hope Memory is a big radio hit.
Okay.
Yeah, no, whenever I write, I don't write with any kind of guidelines or any kind of template. I just write what feels good to me, and that goes for music and lyrically. And I'll change stuff. Like I usually do a lot of rewrites with lyrics. I'll be like, I don't like the way that flows, or it's kind of corny sounding, or that's been used too much type of thing. But yeah, I didn't write with any kind of expectations or guidelines.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. And I think this is, like you stated in the press notes, is kind of a do-it-yourself project. I mean, you're singing, you're playing bass, you're playing guitar. But, you also brought a lot of, let's say, your friends into the mix, an interesting group of guests, but they seem to fit. So let's say a guy like Corey Taylor, he brings his larger than life energy. Danko Jones, he kind of fits into that punchy power punk Bob. And then the song Bridges, honestly, this is like the outlier of the record. It's like a ballad. It's a beautiful song, but you have Steve Conti singing on it. So maybe talk a little bit about the guests. Were you choosing these guests and saying, hey, you're my bud, you're my compadre, I want you in this? Or did you say, hey, I got a song and I think you'd fit?
Well, little of column A, little column B,
Yeah.
I had the songs written and I demoed them all. And, this is a monumental moment in my career and in my life to put out my first ever solo record. So how could I make it better? I'm greedy. How could I make this better? I'm going to ask my buds to be involved. So everyone on this record, from producers to co-writes to performers, they're all my friends. And, I'd record it and think, I'm going to ask Corey if he'll sing on this song, and then Bridges, I hear Steve's soulful inflections and his just that rasp to his voice. And, obviously bridge is a metaphor. We're around a lot of bridges, growing up in the tri-state area. And I'm like a guy from this area, and Steve is the perfect solution to all this, so that's just how it happened. I didn't write songs for people to sing or for people to play on. I just kind of heard their style on a song, All
right, cool. And then you have, your Skid Row mates in there too, Snake, Sabo, and Scotti Hill. So, when did it occur to you that say, hey, these guys are my long-term bandmates for 35, 40 years, but they should be part of this too? Was it more like, hey, Abe, they've earned this respect, or did they have a certain place that you kind of envision them?
Rob Hammersmith played drums on the whole thing, and I also wanted those guys to play a solo. Now, Scotti had played the solo on the song that he did on the demo, and so he played it on the record. And I didn't know whether Scotti and Snake would want to be on it or not. Not that I thought they wouldn't. I just wasn't sure. So I asked them both. I said, would you guys play? It would mean a lot for you guys to play on this record, to have all 4 of us on this record. And they did. They're like, yeah, of course. Just send the song. Stop asking me. You know what I mean? And so they did. And their contribution meant the world to me, because we're family. We've been we've sort of been around this planet quite a few times together, and we've been through a lot of things together, and it meant the world to me that they were part of it.
Yeah, that's the icing on the cake there. One song that jumped out to me was Jet Black because it's kind of, to me, it's like the heaviest song on the album. And then suddenly Nuno Bettencourt of Extreme shows up and he completely shreds. So was this a song that you specifically said, hey, I need a guy like Nuno on this?
Yeah, I recorded it. Rob finished the drums and I recorded everything. And I'm like, who can I get to play on this and to do the solo? And I was just kind of listening. The song has a certain swing to it and it grooves differently than a lot of stuff. I'm like, I'm going to ask Nuno. I'm going to see if he'll do it, see if he even likes the song. So we've known each other for years. I have the same management, the same booking agent. No, scratch that. Just the same management. So I called him and asked him. He's like, yeah, man, I'm in. Send me the song. So I sent it to him. And at that point, he was like deep into the Back to Beginning concert. And he's a busy guy. I know you're busy. So if you can't do it, you're not going to hurt my feelings. But he's like, no, I want to do it. And he recorded the song remotely. I think he was in a hotel room, actually. So he had his rig with him. And when that came back and Nick put it in the song, we're just like, what did we just hear? It was so great. We listened to it like a million times. And I'm like, oh my God, the dude's a beast. He's an absolute beast. And, I think, he has done stuff out of what I think his wheelhouse is. Like with Rihanna, he toured with Rihanna for years and just some other outside stuff. And I felt like this may have been out of his wheelhouse, but kind of in his comfort zone, but it didn't matter because he's just that good. And the solo that's on there is just mind blowing.
No, completely. Yeah. The album's great end to end. I've been spinning it on my way to work, roll down the windows in this bright spring weather and crank it up. And I'm just curious, you mentioned you do everything on the album, but like where like the narratives and the stories, they're very rebellious, punk rock, kicking ass. I'm not going to take any shit. Like, is this stuff like you say, hey, this is just how I feel, or does it kind of come from any maybe personal experiences, or just kind of fiction?
No, in personal experiences, the songs on there that carry a certain amount of angst and aggravations are, they're for real, man. But there's stuff on there like Bridges and like See You on the Other Side. That's just more personal accounts. I make regional references to things. And I also, I've written stuff like that were friends' personal experiences that moved me to the point to where I could write a song about it. So, it's like anything. This is just my way of conveying how I feel.
All right. So, you and I briefly got introduced at the bar at Crossroads in Garwood a few weeks ago. You were hanging with Keith Roth. Keith is a good show friend of ours. We're on the whole Pantheon network through the podcast show, and PJ Farley of Trickster. But, it was funny. That was a cool show because I like that kind of music both those guys play, that garage rock, vintage stuff, Little Steven's Underground on XM. But once I heard this record, it sort of made sense why you were there because it's kind of a tie-in to that style of music. So I'm just curious, like, do you think you're going to get out and do any of this stuff live? You're going to get a little band together and kick around some shows at a little club in Jersey, Stone Pony or something?
Yeah, I would love to. That's always the objective: write songs, record songs, play songs. You know what I mean? So I would love to get out there and do some stuff. Hammersmith is committed, but we're on the same schedule, so that makes it easy. I have a few guys that I would like to play guitar. It's a logistic thing because they're in bands, and so hopefully I could get it all straightened out and do some stuff in between Skid Row, as long as it doesn't interfere with anything Skid Row does. That's my plan, is to get out and do some shows. Yeah.
All right. Well, I would love to hear the stuff live. It is good. Listen, I know everybody under the planet's asking about the singer search, and I don't want to just repeat the same question, but I'm curious about the intangibles because I'm sure for Skid Row, finding another person who can sing the songs technically is the easy part. But really, what qualities are you guys looking for to finally kind of make a singer work long term?
We want someone that could obviously hit the notes, that's realizes what touring entails. And it sounds funny to even say that, but it's such a different mindset these days. Just the music business is just so incredibly different. Like, we couldn't wait to go on the road. It's like, get me away from home for as long as possible, you know. But, you know, we want someone to understand that. We want someone that could be committed, and someone that has the pipes to do it and is a cool hang. You know, the older we get and the further into our career we get, like, the hang is pretty damn important. Not as important as the as the performance aspect, but it's pretty damn important.
All right. Is there a time frame you're looking at here, or it's kind of just whenever the time happens?
Now, we have the luxury of time. We're not in the middle of making a record or have a tour plan, so we're not, like, we don't have to make any split decisions. And we made that promise to each other that we weren't just going to rush into things, because we've auditioned some really, really incredible people that could, you know, that sang great. And wow, that sounds good. It sounds very different, but it sounds really good. So we're like, let's think about this. So that's what we've been doing. And we just reflect on the auditions and reflect on these videotapes and just talk about it and talk about it and talk about it. So we got a batch of people now that we're going to bring to the next phase, get in a room with them, see how they sound in a live situation, and just kind of see if we all vibe. And you know, and if nothing comes out of that, in the meantime, we're still getting more and more submissions through the campaign, through Sweetwater, and we'll see what comes out of that.
All right. Well, we look forward to seeing the end result. So listen, Rachel, I want to ask you one listener question before we leave. So this comes from Mark Ballow in Kearney, New Jersey, and he saw two really important Skid Row shows very early in your career. First was the Bon Jovi Skid Row Billy Squier show at Giant Stadium in 1980 time, and the other one was the legendary Meadowlands Arena parking lot show, 1992, with Pantera, in which Ace Frehley jumped up and you guys jammed Cold Jim. So when you think of those memories or these moments now, what comes to mind about those two events?
Let's start with the last one with Pantera. That I was sick as hell that day, and I don't think I even played when Ace got up because I was just so sick that day.
Wow.
Yeah, I had like one of those summer flus, but it was it was watching Pantera and everyone just piling the chairs up. I'll never forget that. But my biggest takeaway from the whole thing is Dimebag making like a Gene Simmons outfit out of Coors Light boxes, right? And then he's like, hey man, can I borrow one of your basses? And I was like, are you really going to be playing? He's like, no, Rex is, but I just want to go out with your bass. I have something planned. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I give him my bass that I use for Youth Gone Wild, and it was all beat up. And I happened to notice, like, I don't know, 10 to 15 empty ketchup packages, right? I'm like, somebody French fries back here? What's going on? Next thing I know, he's out there going, with ketchup. And he's like, thanks for the bass. It's got ketchup all over it.
Gene Simmons.
Yeah. So, yeah, he put on Gene Simmons makeup. And so he spits ketchup everywhere while jamming with Ace. It was hysterical. Like,
wow.
I miss that dude so much. It was so funny. Anyway, so there was that. That was my takeaway from there.
Awesome.
Now, Giant Stadium with Bon Jovi and Billy Squier. It was just us. We were on tour with Bon Jovi, and we got to Giant Stadium. We didn't know till a couple days before that Billy Squier was going to be on the bill. We're like, okay, cool. Billy Squier, Skid Row, Bon Jovi. Now, no one told us that we were opening the show, then Billy Squier. And so we were pissed. We were pissed, and we had no right to be, but we were pissed. And so still to this day, the last thing you want is for Skid Row to go on stage with a chip on their shoulders, because shit is going to go down. And we went out and we played like hell. We played like, you know, World on Fire type playing, and it was a great show. And I remember it's the first time I ever saw a homemade Skid Row banner, and it was at the top of the stadium. That's when my eyesight was good enough to see a banner at the top of the stadium, right? And I just saw it, and it said Big Guns and Skid Row, Skid Row brings out the big guns or something like that. And I saw that, and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I eventually talked to the people that made it like years later, because I had told this story in an interview. But to play in front of that many people in our home state, and the place was pretty damn full when we went on, and people came out. My whole family was there, and other musicians were there, and actors, and it was a big day for a kid from Tom's River, that's for sure.
Well, these are fantastic memories, and I'm sure we'll get you back on the show down the line and continuous. But in the meantime, for everybody listening, make sure you check out Gargoyle of the Garden State, out now. It's a kick-ass album. So, Rachel, really appreciate you making the time to talk to us today. This was awesome.
Thanks, Lance. I appreciate it. Maybe I'll run into you again at the Crossroads.
It'll be somewhere. Definitely sure. Definitely certain. So have a good summer, man. So for Rachel Bolan, I'm Metal Walt, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC. Cheers.
Right on, brother.
So tonight's episode is a little different, but still very much rooted in the core values of Metal Mayhem ROC. So our guest tonight isn't a guitarist or a singer, but he does parodies of pop culture personalities, fandoms, and yes, even some heavy metal rock stars. So please welcome to our show comedian and creator Marcus Monroe.
What's going on, buddy? How you doing? It's great to be here.
Yes, we exchanged pleasantries at the merch table back a couple of weeks ago at the show in Jersey.
Yeah, not too long ago.
Awesome.
Thank you. About 2.5 weeks ago, I did a birthday show for myself, which is kind of sad, at the Dojo Comedy at Tiff's in Jersey there in Morris Plains. Yeah, we got to meet, and and here I am on the pod. I'm excited.
It's funny. That was my first comedy show I've gone out to see.
Wow.
10 years. I think I went and saw JB Smoove when he had his popularity as Leo on Curb Your Enthusiasm. And of course, back in the day, I used to always go see George Carlin. But what was interesting about your show, it was like boom, boom, boom. Everybody's up there. Bobby Kelly, who was a huge name, Sirius XM guy, and he's like on at like 8:45. I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I told him I was gonna put him on first or second. I give him so much shit. But yeah, Bobby Kelly came out. We had Corey B, Matt Lopes, Brett Druck. It was a great Danny Braff. It was a stacked show. So I had so many people there. The green room was very, very tight.
What is it, Marcus? Is that the way it is now? Because again, using the George Carlin comparison, used to go, you pay a ticket, maybe there's a warm-up act, he does 75 minutes, but it was like you were up there for about a half hour, but it was just like there was no breaks. It was like an hour 45 of just bam, 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 bam. Is that how like the trend of comedy is now?
I think so. I think a lot. Well, it depends on what it depends. Like I went to go see Rory Scovel last night, and he's my favorite comedian in the entire world, hands down. He's like the GOAT to me. And he had 3 openers, and they were all great. They each did about 10 minutes, and then he went on and did about an hour. And yeah, it is kind of like how it is now, where like, you don't want to have a lot of lulls in the show unless it's like a one-man show. But like I like to have a lot of like set up punch. You got to worry about the LPMs, the laughs per minute. You want the audience to be in the zone the whole time. And if you're working on it, you're building momentum, just like a concert. You want to keep that momentum. You want to keep that high going the whole time. So yeah, and a lot of like that, the birthday show you came to at the Dojo of Comedy was a little different because usually I would do more time and have less opening acts, but because it was billed as like Marcus Monroe and friends, I figured that people would be like a little bit more lenient if I only did like 35-40 minutes, and then I had like 5 or 6 friends do 10 minutes, and it was such a fun show. I'm glad you came out. I wasn't sure if people were going to come see me because I tend to play New Jersey, New York quite a bit. So I was like, oh, maybe like my fan base is like, oh, we saw him 6 months ago. Oh, it can't be that new. But, it was. And I'm so glad people came out, and it was almost completely sold out, which was awesome.
Listen, we have that conversation all the time about rock and metal bands coming through town too often, sometimes, especially in the tri-state area. You could see the same artist 3 times in a matter of 16 months, and sometimes it's saturated. It's like if you're a real fan, you might go see it, but after a while, it's like, I just saw this guy. Going to hear the same hour and a half set lists.
I love it. I don't mind seeing the same act more than once, seeing the same songs more than once. Like, I love going to see, like, there was this band when I was first moved to New York. They were a band called Lords, Lourds, and there was like a girl with a electric violin and electric guitar, and she had this like punk rock band behind her, and she was so good. I would see them all of the time. We ended up having like the same manager, but like once a week I would try to go see their show. Like they play like just like clubs, like bar, like they play like Delancey Street and Essex and the city, like these like bar shows, CBGBs, and that was open. They played there, the Knitting Factory, like all these like grungy clubs in the city, and I love that. And I love just seeing them work out different, like how they would adapt to different venues depending on where they were. It was just so interesting to see, and how they keep their energy up the whole show. I loved it.
Yeah, well, there's definitely parallels, like Marcus, like a guy like you, right? You've developed this massive following through your New York City subway skits, right? And you got outrageous costumes, like this absurd wordplay. I say it's like dad jokes on steroids.
Yeah.
But you've covered stuff, hair metal and Elvis and Michael Jackson and Ozzy and emo. So maybe, you mentioned in your comedy skit you were a juggler, but when did New York City become like your stage in a sense? Subways.
Yeah, great question. I mean, so I moved to New York in 2004 to become like a pro juggler, but I was also doing acting. I was kind of not sure what I wanted to do. Comedy was like kind of in the realm, but I started making videos in New York very quickly after I moved here. I made one. Well, I moved here in 2004. It took me maybe about like 6 years until I kind of figured out what I wanted to do. I made a video called "You Can't Juggle Here," and I went out to all these places in the city where I didn't think they'd let me juggle, and I just started juggling, and then I get kicked out and I get asked to leave. And that was like kind of like my first taste of like making New York City the backdrop to one of my videos. And I started the subway stuff about 2.5 years ago, and it has, like, to say it's changed my life is an understatement, but it truly has in a way, because now I'm able to tour nationally. I'm going to all these clubs, not just in New Jersey, but I was in Florida this last week. I'm going to Alabama and New Orleans and California. I'm playing everywhere now, and it's all because of the subway stuff. But I really have to credit New York, because I think if I was doing this in a city that wasn't as big or popular as New York, I don't know if these videos would have caught on so quickly. But it's been fun, and I have done a lot of musicians, and I have a series coming up. I need your help on, so I want to ask you about it.
All right, sounds good. But let's say a little bit about your background.
Sure.
Like how did like the ideas come together? Like, do you start with the costume or the pun, or do you have an idea and it's like, oh my God, if we were talking about, pick anything, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger would be like, wow, a funny line for Arnold would be this. Or you start with the character. Like, what's your ideation?
Great question. I usually start with the character, because I want to think of like visually, what are people going to see and know who that is right away. So that's the first thing. It has to be someone that people are going to know instantly as soon as they see it, who I'm trying to be. So as soon as that's established, then I see if I can find a costume that is affordable, or that I can like make look good, or make my own, or and I'll try to get, I use HalloweenCostumes.com. They're like they sponsor me now, which is amazing.
Okay.
So go check them out. They make great quality costumes. They really do. I'm not just saying that. And so that has been great, because I used to spend quite a bit of money on these costumes, and thankfully now that's I don't still spend a lot, but not as much. But yeah, and I think of the jokes. And I have kind of like a group of friends who I will send ideas to, and they'll send me back some ideas, and we kind of brainstorm the jokes together. It would be way too much for me as one person to sit down and write every single joke that I'm going to say on the subway without any help. So I have a few friends who have been doing this with me since the beginning, who we will write some jokes together and send ideas to each other. And it's a really fun process, because these are comedians I look up to, and they just want to help out. It's really cool. So I'll get about 12 jokes per character. And then what I do on these filming days is I film 3 characters in one day. So my buddy Drew comes over to my apartment, because I hate doing it. Like, it's not that I hate doing it, but it's like, it gives me anxiety. If I had to do this every day on the subway, like it would drive me nuts. So I do it I film maybe like 2 to 3 times a month. And my buddy Drew comes over, and I'm already in costume. So all he has to do is like put his back down, put the battery and mic me up. And then we run out the train. I grab my mic here and then I run out the train. And thankfully I live close to the train, but it always is the sad walk of shame as I walk to the train in my costumes. Cause sometimes it just doesn't make any sense. Like you just see this guy like it's so, that's the most embarrassing part, even more so than like getting on the subway and be like, excuse me. People see the weirdest stuff on the subway, but it's one thing when I'm like leaving the place I live every single day and I'm going to the subway. It's just hard. You know what I mean? It's just not something people are used to seeing, and it's not something I'm ever used to. Because I walk by people I see like dressed normally all the time. They're like, oh hey, what's up? And then they see me again. I look like an idiot. But it's just part of it. And then so I try to stand where there's a lot of people on the train, and my buddy shoots wide so we can get the best reaction from whoever is watching me. And people are like, oh, you must tell people not to laugh. I wish that was true. I wish I was like, hey guys, let's not laugh at this, but I'm trying to get laughs. I really want people to laugh at these jokes, and I know they're not going to. I know that. I've done over 100 of these, but it is fun to try to make people crack on the train, especially people who they didn't want a comedy show. They didn't ask for this. I should say, I am also, so I go up, so I get a little nervous before I do this. So I say, like, when I get onto the train for the first time, in every car, I always say, sorry to bother you, just gonna tell you some jokes from one stop. They're free. You don't have to give me any money. It's not worth it. But I hope you like it. Please just don't beat me up. All right. And I say that, and then it kind of like kills the tension in the room. And it's a good, I think it's a good thing to do, because people think, A, I'm going to ask for money after, which I never do, or B, I'm going to be on the train the whole time. They're like, when is he ever going to leave? And it's just one stop. I'm bothering you for 20, 30 seconds tops. The trains are moving fast. So, and then we go off, the train stops, then we run to the next car and I do my bit. And then we run to the next car and I do my bit. And once I've done all the jokes at least once, we head back uptown. I go to my apartment, have to do the walk of shame, change clothes, get into another outfit. And I do that 3 times in a day. Sometimes I've done it up to 5 different characters in a day. That was too much. 4 is tops now. 3 is like a good amount. I'll do 2 characters if one is very elaborate, like a lot of makeup, a lot of special, sometimes I get like special effects makeup and stuff glued to my face. But yeah, that's pretty much how it goes.
I'm curious, like, is there a certain time of the day, like, do you hit rush hour in the morning or the afternoon? Because, watching the videos, I mean, I love them. Number one, I'm drawn to them, but it seems like 98% of the people are almost like, why is this guy on here? Like, I mean, are really people that in their own headspace where they can't, like, it's not like you're going to look at a guy who is going to go up to you and be like, hey, man, hey, guy with long surfer hair and a baseball hat on backwards, what's up? They're not going to talk to you anyway. So what difference is it if you're doing your business? Because they weren't going to be there to say anything anyway. Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. People will sometimes get upset. Listen, you don't know what someone's been through their day, their week. They could be having the worst week ever. And then I come in, they're just like, oh, fuck. Or they could be like, oh, wow, I was having the worst week. Now this is pretty cool. Like it definitely goes both ways. I've definitely have ruined people's days, but I think I've made more people laugh on the train than have gotten mad at me, which is good. So sometimes when if I have a character and like, you don't know what character is going to do well, you don't. But like when I did Ozzy Osbourne, I did it the week he died. And I did it because of that. I did it because he died. And I was like, oh, I should do Ozzy on the subway. Like, he's current. Everyone's talking about Ozzy. I had like 2 days to write the jokes, 2 days to find the costume, because I was already like scheduled a filming day. And then I just, I remember I was on the train doing like the Ozzy jokes, and someone goes, he just died, right? And I was like, yeah. That's why I'm doing this. Like, it doesn't, why, of course I know that. And I always think like, I gotta, first of all, I want to make sure I'm not punching down on people. Like, I don't like that type of humor. People who can't like defend themselves, like I always try to make the jokes. They're basically just puns, quick one-liners, nothing too offensive. But for like the Ozzy one, I could see how people might have taken it the wrong way and been like, oh, he's making fun of him. But I all the jokes are very respectful, and everyone really liked it, so it wasn't like an issue. But I could understand people be like, oh, that's too soon. But I'm like, well,
I think Ozzy would have thought this was funny. It was rock and roll, man. Like, come on.
I mean, you titled it "I'll see you later." I see you later, right? So as a play on words there, and I mean, just like the whole like all aboard the 555.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not an Ozzy fan, I mean, Prince of Barkness, my buddy who's always fatigued, he needs Iron Man.
Yeah.
Those are not offensive things. They're funny.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a fun one to do. And that was like, I don't really love to be specific people. I always try to be like types of people, if that makes sense. Like, I don't like to be like, Ozzy Osbourne. I'd much prefer like just like rock star or something. But he's so iconic and he's like larger than life that I feel like it makes sense to be him. Like, so I have kind of branched out and done more like specific people. But as long as they're like overall like legends and icons, I think that's fun to do.
So I mean, in a general sense, like I mean, what's some of the reactions maybe you don't see on film per se, like any outrageous reactions from fans or any skits go completely off the rails where, I don't know, the banana head fell off or like what were some bloopers moments? That's
a great question. Yeah, we had a ton. I mean, there's a ton of stuff where like the costumes break, the mic falls over. I had thankfully I've never gotten like physically assaulted. That's like my one concern, is that like that's gonna happen. My camera guy has. Drew and I were filming. I was dressed as baby Jesus. So I had like a bald cap on, I had a bonnet here, like a naked Jesus baby doll. So I look like a baby with like a giant head in a bassinet with like, hay in the manger. And it was like right before Christmas. I was filming this. I was going to post it on like Christmas Day. And I remember that this guy just came in the train. This is before we even started filming. He was like looking for trouble. It wasn't even anything we were doing. He was just wanting someone to like attack. So he like latched himself onto my camera guy and started like holding him, like kind of like dragging him around, like and my guy's like, "What are you doing, dude? Get off me," And then like we didn't film anything that way. And I came up to him like, "Guys, can we get along?" But I'm dressed like baby Jesus. I look like a dork. Thankfully the train stopped. We got off that one stop. He like kicked my camera guy on the way out. It was crazy. I think my camera guy made a video about that, but I haven't posted it. But so that's one behind the scenes thing. I was dressed as the Grinch 2 years ago, and there was a literal fist fight on the train. It had nothing to do with me, but I did break it up as the Grinch in character. I was like, "Hey guys, it's Christmas. Let's not fight." And I broke up, tried to break up. I don't think I did help much. But I was like, "Hey, are you rolling?" He's like, "I'm rolling." "All right, I'm gonna go try to break this up." So it was kind of silly. The closest I've gotten to physical violence is as I was dressed as Columbus for Columbus Day. Columbus Day video. Columbus on the subway. Now, if you see me dressed as Columbus, you're gonna be like, "Oh, that guy's a big Columbus fan." I get where people might have misread that, but the jokes were all very anti-Columbus, pro-indigenous people. Okay. So I say indigenous people. Some guy hears me, he looks at me, sees me dressed as Columbus, thinks I love Columbus or something. I don't know what he was thinking, but he's like, "Say Columbus one more time, that motherfucker, I'll slap it out of your mouth or something." I was like, well, he's like, "Say indigenous people one more time." I was like, "Indigenous people," like I didn't. And then he got up from his seat and he was like coming over, and I was like, "What are you gonna do?" And he got in my face. I'm like, "Dude, if you're gonna like punch me for dressing up like Columbus and making anti-Columbus jokes like a couple days before Columbus Day, go for it. It's gonna make a great video. I'll get a ton of views. It'll be awesome." But thankfully he did not attack me. I don't condone that. Please don't hit me. But yeah, a lot of times the people that are laughing though are like not on camera. They're like behind the camera guy. So it's hard to like, it's hard to get everyone's. So my camera guy Drew's thinking like maybe I should put a camera on my back to get people's reactions that are behind me. I'm like, "Dude, that's too much. I'm not gonna have time to look through all that footage."
Wow. Well, that's awesome. Well, don't ever come to the town I live to, which is not far from the Dojo Comedy Club in a town called East Hanover, New Jersey. Okay. We are very Italian American up here, and they would have probably beat your ass if you did that skit.
Probably, yeah.
Just FYI. But
no, okay. I think I'm done doing Columbus. No more Columbus videos at all. No, I'm just gonna repost it every Columbus Day. But that's it.
And now, Marcus, flipping that around about, let's say, the passengers, like there has to be occasions where the stranger becomes sort of maybe your co-star. Like I thought of one, I think you posted it this week where some guy just gets up and I didn't get it. He was like, "Hey man, what are you, like 40 years old or something?" And you were like, "Well, what does that have to do with anything?"
Yeah, so that was my buddy Jarrett. He's in the band Bowling for Soup.
Yeah.
So I was dressed as emo kid, and he was in town doing a show that night. So I'm like, "Hey, do you want to come watch me film?" And he's like, "Absolutely." So I was like hanging out in his tour bus, dressed as the emo guy. We walk over to the subway. I start doing my thing, and then I'm like, "Hey, do you want to like get up and do a joke or something?" And he's like, "Oh, no, 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 no." I'm like, "Come on, it'd be great." He's like, "No, no, no." I'm like, "Well, do you want to like heckle me when I'm sitting in that way? You can just sit down and we can have like some banter." He's like, "Yeah, I'll heckle you." So I gave him the lines to say, and it didn't really make any sense because he's clearly older than 40 in the video, and I'm I don't think I was 40 at the time, but anyway, it was just like a funny interaction that we had because he's obviously a super famous rock star. But yeah, it was great. A lot of times, I think people like to see the interactions I have with the people on the train, even if they're not like set up. Like, no, I don't. You'll clearly know when like something is set up, I think, on the train. But it's so fun when people like want to get in on it and give me notes. Like this one guy was telling me how to like say a joke on the subway recently. And I said it once. He's like, "No, you got to slow it down." And I said it again a little slower, and he's like, "That was perfect." And I was like, "All right."
Think this one too, and I forgot about this and prepare for this. You had Pat Monahan from the rock band Train on the train. I thought
Train on the Train with Train. Yeah, that was crazy. I'm a huge Train fan. I love that band. And I got an email from their press person. They're like, "Hey, we have I work with Train. Do you want to do anything they have like a new album coming out?" And I was like, "Oh, I'd love to do something with Train. Are they going to be there too?" And they're like, "Yeah, Train's going to be there." I'm like, "Oh, amazing." So like I meet him briefly before the thing, and I'm like, "Hey, this is the idea I have. I'm going to say these Train jokes, and then I'll see you guys." And then it'll be like, "Oh my God, I'm Train on the Train with Train," because I dressed as a train, like a train conductor, and I had like a train. I have it over here, but I had like a fake train I was holding on to the whole time. So it was like Train on the Train with Train. Obviously that was all set up too, but it was pretty sweet to have Train with me on the train. And then they also booked me to perform on their cruise, which is
all right
in 2027, but I'm stoked in January, but I'm excited that it'll be great. They became friends of mine from these videos. Chris Jericho from the band of Ozzy and also professional wrestler. He's a fan of these videos as well, and I think he saw these and then also booked me to perform on his cruise, which is pretty sweet.
That's great. There's talking about where let's say metal meets comedy. Don Jameson and Jim Florentine, they're both friends of the show. Like we've had them on as guests, like to promote their product, but also just to talk Van Halen or whatever the current event is. You got a guy like Jim Brewer who does his AC/DC skits. So there's definitely like some associations there, and even Chris Jericho himself, he's got an 80s version of Kiss cover band that he does only the versions from 83 and on. He played over here in Jersey back in December. So there's a definitely tie-ins.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're called Quarantine.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. That's crazy. Yeah, I love that. I saw Kiss once at Sturgis Bike Week in like 2008 or 2009 in South Dakota. It was pretty fun.
Yeah. So, you covered off on the Ozzy stuff. I think, for our listeners on Metal Mayhem ROC, there's a couple other skits where you're dressed up in the plaid. You got the hair metal.
Yep.
Where you're just kind of doing like parodies of that kind of, hair rock or classic rock culture. I mean, you touched on stuff about Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi and Night Ranger and Rad and Mushroomhead. And my favorite was, "My first drummer had no arms and legs. He was a headbanger."
Yeah. I also had a drummer who would use his head to bang the drums. He was a concussionist. So I'm doing I think on next Monday I'm filming again. I usually film on Tuesdays, but I'm filming on Monday next week, and I was gonna do Kiss on the subway. And so I was hoping I could get some ideas from you about Kiss, some things that they might be known for, or some things I could joke about. The only joke I have so far is I'll be dressed as like Gene Simmons, I believe, in the demon outfit. But I want to be like, yeah, me and Paul Stanley oftentimes fight, but don't worry, we always kiss, then make up.
That works.
I think that because like kiss, we always kiss, and then make up because they're wearing makeup. So it's kind of like two jokes in there. We always kiss and make up.
Well, you know what Gene Simmons, okay, his themes are he loves money, he loves the merchandise, he loves to he loves to take care of business, from Kiss condoms to Kiss caskets. And Paul Stanley, the star man, he's known for his manly chest hair, so there's all kinds of stuff like that. So there's probably plenty of things you can go to. And of course, Peter Criss, he had the signature song that every Kiss fan knows, Beth. But does anybody know Kevin?
Oh, okay. Everybody knows Beth is a Kiss song.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Okay, I should know this. I should know this. I'm sorry. I gotta do more research.
You have to do your research, but yeah, I think you could go a far ways. And of course, Gene Simmons with his, when I was a kid in the 70s, like there was rumors that he had a cow tongue sewn onto his human tongue. This was the real bullshit I believed as an 8-year-old kid in 1970. Wait, Gene Simmons has a cow's tongue?
Yeah.
How could that possibly be?
I remember hearing some crazy rumors about him too, about like, crazy stuff like that. But it kind of builds the allure of the band. It makes you more like, what? Like when you're a kid, when you're 8 years old and you hear that, you believe it. You're like, oh, he's an adult. Maybe he did that. You don't know where the lines are.
No, of course. And then when they did the Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, Ace Frehley's punching out all these bad guys, all these character actors flying through the air, falling down 100, flights of stairs, and then getting up, beating them up, and he's giggling. That was part of the game.
Yeah, that's so fun. They're definitely like a very smart band when it comes to marketing, and the makeup. I love that. I love the whole presentation. I love the outfits. I love the theatrics of a good show like that.
Yeah, 100%. So, maybe in some of the musicians, Marcus, how do you go about it? Like you've done stuff, like you've done Michael Jackson, you've done Elvis Presley, you've done an emo stuff. Like what makes music personality so fun to parody?
People love music, so I think that's the main thing. And if I do like a pop star or a country star or like an emo guy, I'm kind of hitting different people, like different types of people like that type of music will get those types of jokes. So what I'm thinking is like, what can I do that'll get like passed around to that group of people? Then hopefully they become my fans. Like that's what I'm kind of hoping. And since music is so like you have every person likes music. No one's like, oh, I hate listening to music. Who hates listening to music? So I just figure like that's like a good way of trying to connect with more people and and I also loved all different types of music. I listened to absolutely everything. I listened to, everything from NSYNC to Elvis to Outkast to Hootie and the Blowfish to Anvil to
Anvil. I'm impressed.
That documentary was so good.
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
I absolutely have seen that. These guys that resurrected their career.
I know it did, and it was like a true Spinal Tap in a way, like that. If you do, people know what we're talking about? People who follow this podcast know.
Yeah, of course they do. Yep.
I love that documentary. It's so well done, and you just are just rooting for these guys. You just want these guys to win so badly. And I think you're right. It did. They were able to tour pretty well after that documentary came out. And then I watched it again fairly. I watch it like once a year. I watched it again fairly recently, and then I went on their website. I don't know if they're still touring or not. Are they still together and doing it?
They're still touring. They're one of these. They're like a bar band. Like you'll get them once a year through the States. They're Canadian. Yeah. And listen, the fortunate or unfortunate part of a lot of these 80s rock bands, especially ones that didn't hit it big, probably much like comedians and others, is in order to survive, you got to stay on the road. So you'll see bands like this, they're out there, they're playing 6 out of 7 nights a week, much like a comedian. They gotta get in their car, they got to drive their equipment, set it up, you sell their own merch, they're not nobody's selling records anymore.
Right. Such a hustle. And merch is, if you ever go to a live show, please consider buying merch, because that is a lot of times that's the only money like we go away with after a show. Because if I come to Florida, like last week, I had to pay for my flight, my rental car, my hotel, and all my food. And after that, I'm playing a room that only fits like 120 people. Then I have to work it out with like a split of the door. Like there's so many. Like you have to sell certain number of tickets to get to like to a place to where you actually start seeing a return on your investment. Then you have to pay for your openers. You have to pay for the ads to advertise for the show to let people know you're coming into town. There's so many costs that go into a show, which is why I think if you hit the road, you want to stay on the road, because like if you already bought a flight, now you're in a rental car, you can just drive to like different cities, different towns. It's crazy now, and selling tickets after the pandemic has been so much harder too. A lot of people got so comfortable just staying inside, not going out, not going to shows, not going to movies. There's like, I'll just stay home and stream something. So a lot of people who come to my shows, so many times people are like, oh, this is the first comedy show I've ever been to. And I'm like, what? That's crazy.
Wow. What is I'm just curious, like thinking about this now, like again, your skit goes down well in the tri-state area, but what if you play Alabama or Florida? Do they get your humor, or is
yeah, they get it, because thankfully they're coming to see me, so they've hopefully done some research, looked me up a little bit, seen what my show is like. So yeah, I mean, there is some confusion sometimes. I will say, like, people think I'm going to do what I do on the subway on stage, and I talk about it because how could I not? But I don't do a lot of puns, a lot of dad jokes in my set, because it would be terrible. I do like a few jokes like that so people know, oh, okay, I'm glad he's not doing an hour of this, because it would be really, really bad. So that is something I do want to get out of the way. That like, yeah, if you come see me live, don't expect an hour of dad jokes. It's going to be just actual jokes, normal stand-up comedy. I mean, it's a little weird. It's not all normal. You can admit that. I think I juggled knives at the dojo. That was crazy.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, just real knives from the kitchen. I went up to the owner. I was like, bring me 3 of the biggest knives you can.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was like, I mean, it didn't look staged, but I'm like, man, is he really nervous, or is he playing this up to be nervous?
No, I would never done that before with those knives and those handles. I don't know if you remember, but the blades were like this. They were so big, and the handles were like the tiniest. They were like not even a quarter of the knife. It was not a lot of room for error there, but thankfully it was pretty good.
Well, for our listeners to know, when I saw Marcus at the end, he talks about, he started his career as a professional juggler. Somebody brought out a DVD to get it signed, and here comes these 3 massive knives out of the back. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. I always thought it'd be fun. Just change it up a little bit for my birthday. I can do whatever I want. Pretty good and pretty fun.
So, hey, before we get off the musical part, I thought of 2 more artists I think you should consider down the line. I think you should consider Freddie Mercury, if you haven't done Freddie Mercury yet.
Oh, no, I haven't. That'd be great.
And Jerry Garcia, the Grateful Dead.
Oh, yes. Both are great. Both are legends, and both are people who, when you see them, you know exactly who they are. So that would be great. I would love to do Freddie Mercury. That would be so good. There's got to be so many good Queen jokes that I come up with, too. Just the mustache and the big teeth and, like, the tank top and, like, the jeans. And I can carry the mic stand, like, the way he had it. Like, that would be so good.
You have to look at the Wembley show from '86. That to me is the Freddie, Freddie, and of course Garcia. Garcia. We all love the Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Even though Bob Weir died earlier this year, he didn't have the stage presence in terms of the physical look as Jerry. Yeah,
I like the Jerry Garcia band. They also have some good tunes. But yeah, and I think Jerry Garcia would be great. Yeah, so good, so good.
So, hey, Mark.
Yeah, I'm always open to. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, before I let you go, I just wanted to talk about maybe some rapid fire questions, like stuff like What was your favorite, like some of your favorite episodes, some of your favorite characters, maybe some of your favorite costumes that you could look back in 20 years and be like, oh my God, this is what, you remember that?
Oh yeah, man. So the Wheaties box was like one of my favorites because I made myself a giant Wheaties box and I put Messi on the cover, and then I cut out his face and put my head as his face, and it just matched up perfectly. Like I wasn't sure when I made it if it was gonna be too big, too small, if it was gonna look good, if it wasn't. But thankfully it just worked out absolutely perfectly. I remember I made that the Wheaties box like in Photoshop. In when I was in England working on a TV show. It was a big failure, but I was like, oh, this will be a good Subway video. And that was one I think where I had the costume before I had any jokes written. Another one was the peanut. I don't know if you saw, I was a giant peanut on the Subway, and I took two like 36-inch balloons and blew them up, taped them together, then paper machéed them, and then popped the balloons. And it was that costume took forever to make, and it was so hot in there, it didn't breathe, so I was just dying in there. And like when you were asked about bloopers earlier, I thought like the way how my head was coming out, that the thing was breaking and it looked bad, but my videographer was like, dude, you can't tell, but it's fine, everything was good. So yeah. Wait, what was the question? I just lost my train of thought.
Just about like some of your favorite moments yourself, costumes, performance.
Oh, and then Stephen Hawking's on the Subway was that was more recent, but I think that's going to go down as one of my favorites. I have another part of that. Maybe I'll play on this week. I'll post this week, but yeah, Stephen Hawking's was great. I loved it. I hated doing it, but I was so happy when it was over.
Yeah, it's like a little uncomfortable, but it was clever. It was clever.
Yeah, thank you. I'll take that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, outside of the Subway skits, what are you plugging? Where are you going out on the road? What do you want our fans to know about shows, tours, social media trends?
Yes. Come see me live. I'm playing a ton of shows coming up. I'm going to be in Lafayette, Mobile, Birmingham, Stamford, Rochester, Boston, Chicago, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Point Pleasant, New Jersey, New Orleans, Dallas, Sunnyvale, Canton, Ohio. So I got a lot of dates coming up. And the show is very different than what you see online, but we do talk about it. We do get into it. Sometimes I even show videos of, never before seen Subway stuff. If I have a video that I don't think I can post or something, that's like, I showed some people the Stephen Hawking's video before I posted it, at shows, like, hey, there's a little sneak peek. That's kind of fun. But yeah, come see me on the road. Come follow me on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. And if you know any good kiss jokes, send them my way, because I want to be kissed on the. Well, I think this will probably come out. I'll probably have already posted the video by the time this comes out, but maybe I'll do it again if it's good. So send me some kiss jokes.
Well, the good thing about a show like ours on Metal Mayhem ROC is we have passionate metal fans, and if they tie the worlds of comedy and metal together, they'll probably be like, hey, John and Walt, you need to tell your friend Marcus there, he needs to do this about Metallica and about Anthrax, and what about Dave Mustaine and Megadeth? So who knows? Maybe we'll become part of your creative process.
I love that. I would love that. I think I love all types of music. I think this podcast is awesome. Yeah. So have you ever see the murder, like Gigi Allen and the Murder Junkies? You ever see them?
No, I didn't, but I'm very familiar with them. I mean, that's like off the charts crazy.
That is crazy. I'm not Gigi Allen crazy, but I've seen that documentary that Todd Phillips did on him. That was a great documentary. I don't know if you've seen that. But
no, I have not seen that one. No, it's
great. So he made it while he was in film school at NYU, and it was like before The Hangover. Obviously, it was like one of his first films he ever did. And Todd Phillips directed The Hangover, that series. But he was a big G.G. Allen fan, so he invited him to NYU to perform, and he interviewed him and made this great documentary. I highly recommend it.
All right, we'll have to check that out. So, to everybody listening, may have been a different episode for Metal Mayhem ROC, but creativity, performance, and entertainment comes in a lot of forms. And Marcus Monroe absolutely fits that world. So, Marcus, it was great to have you on today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, buddy. This was great.
So make sure to follow Marcus Monroe on Instagram and social media and check out all his Subway skits, characters, costumes, and complete chaos. For today, Marcus Monroe, I'm Metal Walt, and we are Metal Mayhem ROC.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.